All right, today we've got a really fascinating case for you. It's a story about what happens when the pursuit of justice gets tangled up in a very human problem. What do you do when a judge simply knows too much?
So, I want you to imagine this. You've been through a high-stakes, bitter legal battle. It's been exhausting. But finally, you reach a settlement. You can feel this huge wave of relief wash over you. It's over. But then, the judge who helped you make the deal refuses to sign off on it. The whole thing is dead. And now, that same judge knows every secret, every concession you were willing to make. What on earth happens next? For the two people in our story, Mr. Henley and Ms. Bastari, what should have been the end of a nightmare was, well, it was just the beginning of a new one. Think about it. On August 21st, there's that glimmer of hope. They have an agreement. But just 24 hours later, it all starts to crack. And by the 23rd, the deal is completely gone, and a much bigger, much more complicated legal crisis is just getting started.
Okay, so let's get into the heart of it, because this is where things get really sticky for Mr. Henley. Suddenly, his fight wasn't just about property anymore. It was about the fairness of the entire process.
Here's the absolute crucial point you have to understand. Those settlement talks, they were supposed to be confidential. They were full of offers and compromises that were never ever meant to see the light of day in a courtroom. But now, the one person who would ultimately decide the case had seen it all.
This slide illustrates the problem perfectly. Think of it like a poker game, right? On one side, you have Mr. Henley's official court position. That's his strong poker face, the hand he's showing everyone. But on the other side, you have his secret settlement offer. Those are the cards he was willing to fold just to end the game. And the judge? The judge had just seen both hands.
And this leads us to this really important legal concept called apprehended bias. It's so interesting. The law isn't saying the judge is a bad person or is definitely biased, not at all. It's saying the situation looks so bad that a normal, reasonable person might start to worry that the judge couldn't be impartial. It's all about the appearance of fairness.
Which, of course, brings us to the million-dollar question in this whole mess. Knowing what Mr. Henley's absolute bottom line was, could that judge truly wipe the slate clean and give him a fair and impartial trial?
Well, Mr. Henley's lawyers decided the answer was a hard no, and so they launched an appeal. But this wasn't about the property split anymore. Oh no, this was a fight for something way more fundamental, the right to a trial that doesn't just be fair, but feels fair. To do this, they used a specific legal tool called the Ebner test. It's actually a pretty straightforward two-step logic test. First, you just have to identify the thing that might cause the bias. Easy enough. It's the judge's knowledge of the failed deal. And second, you have to draw a clear, logical line connecting that knowledge to a reasonable fear of an unfair trial.
And their argument was incredibly powerful. They basically built it on 5 pillars. First, they said, look, these concessions weren't small potatoes. They were huge. Second, his lawyers were now in an impossible spot, what they called a forensic embarrassment. I mean, how can you argue for a position in court when the judge knows your client was willing to give it up? Third, this knowledge wasn't something you could just forget. It was indelible. Fourth, the judge didn't just know the general idea, he knew the exact dollar amounts. And finally, and this is a big one, even the other side's lawyer had hinted that maybe the judge stepping aside was the right call.
And you know what? The appellate court really got it. They honed in on this very human idea. A judge is a professional, but they're still human. You can't just unknow something that big. This quote says it all. The potential subconscious effect was just too risky to ignore.
So all the arguments have been made. The case has reached its absolute climax. The higher court now has to make a call. Does the appearance of fairness matter just as much as actual fairness?
And the court came right back to that core principle we talked about. They made it super clear. This isn't about the judge's character. We're not trying to read their mind. The only thing that matters is how this whole situation would look to an ordinary person on the street, what the law calls a fair-minded lay observer. And here it is, the final verdict. They found that a reasonable person, looking at all of this, might reasonably worry that the judge couldn't be impartial. That word, might, is everything here. The mere possibility was enough to change the entire case. So the outcome was swift and decisive. Mr. Henley won. The appeal was allowed, and the first judge's decision to stay on the case was completely thrown out.
So, what does that actually mean in practice? Well, it means the whole case goes right back to the beginning. It's a total do-over, a complete system reset. But this time, it will be heard by a brand new judge who knows absolutely nothing about that failed settlement.
Now, this case might seem like some technical legal drama, but honestly, it is packed with some incredibly powerful lessons that apply to all of us, way outside of a courtroom. Let's break them down.
First one, procedure is sunlight. How things look is a fundamental part of justice. It's not just about the result, it's about the journey. So if a process in your own life feels wrong or compromised, listen to that feeling. It might be pointing to a real problem.
Second, and this is a big one for any negotiation you're ever in, every offer you make reveals your hand. Every time you make a concession, that is information you are giving away that you can never, ever take back. It's out there forever.
Number 3, a procedural win is a real win. Think about it. Mr. Henley didn't walk away with his property settled. What he won was something more important, the chance for a fair fight. And sometimes, just securing a level playing field is the biggest victory you can get.
Fourth, trust the system's rules, not just the people in it. The rule about apprehended bias isn't there because judges are bad people. It's there because they're human. The system builds in these safeguards to protect everyone from even the suspicion of unfairness.
And finally, a really smart lesson from the other side of the table. Miss Basari made an incredibly shrewd move. She saw how strong Mr. Henley's argument was, and she didn't fight the appeal. She saved a fortune in time and money. Sometimes the wisest move you can make is knowing which battle not to fight.
You know, this whole case really forces us to think about what justice even is. It's not some perfect, abstract idea, it's a human system, and it relies on all of us having confidence in it. Which leaves us with a pretty big question to chew on. In our own lives, when does looking fair matter just as much as actually being fair?